Through that, I also realized there are a bunch of academics writing about hip hop,
Mm,
and by that time, I'd hung out with Cool Herc like on a regular basis. He'd ride his bike to my homie's house, and we'd smoke or like hang out. And I'm just like, I'm sitting here with this guy who was a catalyst to some respect of kind of birthing like hip hop culture, and these academics are writing about something they actually don't like live within. Can I write about kind of this culture or figure out some way to like highlight these artists?
Welcome to For the Record, a casual, mostly unedited conversation series presented by Greenman, where we speak with music heads about their stories and the music that makes them. I'm your host, McKeegan Voice. Today on episode 44, I chatted with Natalie Crüe. Natalie is a cultural producer, consultant, and activist who leverages arts, culture, and emergent technologies for social change. She co-founded Culture Fix, which is a global network fostering civic engagement through creative initiatives. Natalie's work also spans blockchain technology, including co-developing the Metaverse Music Festival and stewarding numerous grants and communities across the blockchain landscape. As founder of Web3 Uncut, she leads a consultancy exploring and interrogating decentralized technologies. She recently founded a creative crowdfunding platform. We touched on many of these things, as well as her involvement in Pizza DAO, hanging out with DJ Cool Herc, and of course, the music that she loves. Hope you enjoy. Hey Natalie, great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Absolutely. So as usual in this show, we like to start at the beginning and just get, a sense of your beginning, where you're from, and, when your relationship with music started.
Yeah, that's a where am I from is an interesting question.
Hmm.
I was born in a little town called Stockton, California. There's like 300,000 people, but everybody knows each other. It's like 1 degree of separation. Probably have like 100 cousins you don't know about. It's just that kind of small town feels, surrounded by cows. And so, yeah, I grew up there. My father was from down south in Oklahoma, and my mother was from here. But I have Italian, Spanish roots, and so yeah, I kind of have a very interesting where am I from question is very interesting to kind of traverse, but that's the
Cool.
lowdown. So
Yeah, cool. I love that. And then what about music? When did your relationship with music start?
I that's also an interesting question. My father was a DJ and he would play at the parties like all the time, and my mother would like be pissed at him because he was always gone trying to DJ at this party, that party. And so I came into, I mean, maybe through the womb, like just experiencing music on a deeper level, like via my father and everybody that I was around. They all like to party, and so I just kind of grew up on the disco floor, so to speak. And so yeah, I you remember some of my earliest memories have to deal with like my father driving us to like preschool and listening to Too Short or Friends of Distinction and like all these different funk and soul bands. And so I never cannot recall a moment as a child that I didn't hear music or wasn't surrounded by that. So yeah.
Cool. Cool. And yeah, I mean, how did that evolve over time? Like, post preschool, where you were like hearing it in the car, like what happened next? Like, what were the steps that took you, closer to music over time, and, so that became part, of your own life in your own way.
Yeah, I always remember like my family always pushed me to be like, show us the dance. And I'm like, can you sing something? My godmother, who is a wild Mexican lady, we used to always watch Star Search. I'm telling my age. And she's like, "You're gonna be on that show, but you gotta practice." I'm like, "Practice what?" and so eventually, I ended up in tap dance and all these different kind of things. And I yeah, it progressed from that. But my godmother would always make me like quote unquote practice. And she's like, you can outsing them. They can't dance like you, and just pumping me up. That was my first hype woman. And so I always remember that. And so kind of growing up, I eventually I became a teenager and we have our own little parties and stuff like that. And so so I kind of explored music through different ways through my father DJing, and then also being a dancer. Somewhere along the line, it was like a Polynesian dancer, and so that was a interesting world. So yeah,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, as you got into your teenage years, like a switch in which is
yes,
oftentimes the formative, years of music
yeah.
taste. As you were dancing, like what was the music you were listening to? What's the music that you remember most
I've
vividly from that point? Yeah, from that point of your life.
I've always listened to, like, everything, look whether it's, like, Northern Soul, which is actually, a lot of that kind of influence came out of, like, Europe, but a lot of the bands came from here in the States, so it's interesting, juxtaposition, but I remember listening to, like, The Webs, which is the old school, like, soul band, or there's a huge, like, legacy of funk music here, in Northern California, the Bay Area, and so Confunction was, like, a huge, band that I loved as a teenager, and then also at that time there were zines, these like little bootleg DIY like zines that people put together, and I learned about the world through that. And then later in the mid '90s, like IRC chat, which was um, one of the earliest like chat programs. Think AOL, but like very prehistoric. And so a lot of people from all over the world had what they were called servers, so think their own like libraries of music. I'm like, ooh, like this is French like jazz from like the 1940s, like Edith Piaf, or this is this cool like Cambodian like psych rock. And at that time in the 60s, they would just kind of re-record like whatever the popular like soul or funk or like rock music was. And so like I would discover like all these different genres that exist in the world. And mind you, I come from a very small town. If you went to Tower Records, it was all the popular bands or whatever. You'd rarely get even like local stuff, but you would rarely get like these genres that existed outside of like the small town. And so IRC chat, I think, was the catalyst for me to discover the world that existed outside of this small podunk town with a bunch of cows.
Cool.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I remember the IRC days as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that was kind of the early internet. Now all of a sudden we have a means of accessing,
Mhm.
music from all over the world. Yeah, I mean that was, I'm also from a really small town, so that was also really, fruitful for me. Um,
Mhm.
and then how did take me from the IRC chats, um, I want to say ISRC, which is a whole other
Let's start through there.
thing. uh, the IRC chat, to how music and culture came to be part of the work that you do.
Yeah. So again, like IRC chat, as I said, like pushed me into this whole entire world. That's where I discovered like French hip hop and German hip hop and what was happening in the UK, and then later the whole like grime scene. And I was blown away by these kind of, they weren't even subculture. There was cultures within their own. They had lingo, and
Mhm.
um, they had their little cool dress. They had their magazines, and I was like, how do I get all this stuff like in this podunk town? Because I can't. And San Francisco's 2.5 hours away, and I don't even know if they have the stuff there. So at that time, they had you can mail order stuff. And so these people are probably like, who the heck is this mail ordering all these like hip hop magazines and kind of catalogs and stuff like that? And I was just ordering all these things. And I was like, how can I, at that time, I believe I was in high school, and that's a whole nother story for another day. But I started to like immerse myself in this world of like international global hip hop and wondering what was happening in the world. And so I began to make my own zines. But I think by that time they started to get phased out a little bit. But I was still writing zines. I didn't care. And so people, so people were like, who's this person writing these zines about hip hop? And so I, fast forward, like I'd moved to New York in probably 2006, and I, again, like I discovered a whole different world of people, places, and things. And New York was a far cry from like where I grew up, and so I wanted to bring a lot of international acts that I'd kind of grown to like love over to the States. And I'm like, there's no money for this unless I want to work with the State Department. Again, that's a whole nother podcast. But and so I was like, how can I raise funds to like actually bring these artists over? I had like little underground shows in high school and like other kinds of things, but nothing kind of what was happening in New York. And so I like partnered with some people. We brought some cats over from like Mali and South Africa and some other places, and it kind of just spew up from that. I was also part of like a bunch of underground warehouse scene kind of parties and gallery parties, and so it was, yeah, that's kind of New York kind of brought me into the fold, so to speak. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, as New York does. It's kind of a
yeah,
microcosm
or
of
spits
the
you out.
Yeah,
I
I mean, it can do both. Yeah, I mean, it did
I've
both for me.
experienced it. Yeah. Yeah, and so through
Um,
that, I also realized, there are a bunch of academics writing about hip hop,
mm,
and by that time, I'd hung out with Cool Herc, like, on a regular basis. He'd ride his bike to my homie's house, and we'd smoke or, like, hang out, and I'm just like I'm sitting here with this guy who was a catalyst, to some respect of kind of birthing, like, hip hop culture, and these academics are writing about something they actually don't, like, live within. Can I write about kind of this culture or figure out some way to, like, highlight these artists? And it was very challenging, um, experience, like, some of these academics, even to this day, and so but I was able to kind of do it my own way, shout out to Frank Sinatra, do it my own way and just bring folks in and have a good time, and, it was without kind of capitulating to the State Department or other entities, so that's kind of how I got involved in, and I was also archiving some stuff in the UK with some cats, some hip hop stuff, and so I just got involved in whatever was happening, so
mm,
yeah.
cool. I love that. I mean, I'm really curious how, because I think I became aware of your work through more of the Web3 world,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
let's call it, and we're both part of the Black Dave chat and some other familiar
Yeah,
spaces. Um, and I'm curious how you found your way to that space. Like, how did you go from
yeah.
writing about hip hop, connecting all of these folks from all over the world and these shows and these different scenes? What brought you into Web3?
Around 2016, well, I'd known this guy Vandal, and DJ Lethal Skills. DJ Lethal Skills is like the granddaddy of like hip hop in the Middle East, Lebanon. And then Vandal was in Malaysia at the time, pushing up a lot of what were called social tokens. And so I've known them from like hip hop, the whole international hip hop circle. As big as it is, it's also like super small. And so I knew them for years and years and years. And I saw them doing a lot of they'd done hip hop in the on the blockchain in 2018, I believe. But prior to that, they were involved in Near, which is a protocol slash chain, and they're doing all kinds of cool projects. They were on Steemit, which was one of the first like decentralized communities that I was a part of. And I was like, y'all getting money for like all these like magazines and cool stuff. But to be frank, I had never made money off of like these artists coming over. That wasn't the intention.
Hmm.
But we still got to eat. And so they're like, hey, like, come over here and check this out. And I just watched them kind of build really cool communities and do a lot of cool things. And so I was like, I gotta be over there because this academic whatever thing is happening is not my lane. And so I just jumped head in first. And at that time, you kind of just had to do that in with the sharks or figure out your way. And so from there, I just probably 2021, I started to build NFTs.tips with some people I'd randomly met on Clubhouse, and we had by the end like 70,000 people that were part of that club hosting education 24/7 workshops. We're having IRL events, and so I just kind of got sucked. Clubhouse was kind of like the linchpin for me, and I knew then, I knew before, but I knew then, like for real, that I wanted to be a part of like Web3 and building out kind of carving out the trenches and bringing folks in to show them that you don't have to capitulate to the record industry or the music industry or like all these things. You actually can make a sustainable living, or at least find some people that you rock with in this space, if nothing else. And so we're just bringing in people in droves to like crypto and Web3, and like for me, it changed my life because before then, I worked in galleries, I worked in museums, I'd worked in the music industry on the periphery, but I never felt like anything. So I love my work, but I never felt anything. And so it was this like I live and breathe crypto and Web3. And so this is the first time I felt like invigorated, and every day, like I'm not a morning person. I'm getting up at 7, 6 o'clock in the morning to talk to people from South Korea. Like, what is wrong with me? So yeah, that was yeah, it's been a journey though. So
Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot's happened since 2016
Yeah, a
in
lot, too much.
in Web3. Yeah, I mean that's 85 years or something in crypto days, I think. In
Maybe
crypto,
800.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
I'm curious. I really want to ask about Pizza DAO, but before I ask about Pizza DAO, I'd love to get your thoughts more broadly because you've been involved, for a lot longer than
Mhm.
most people have, and I'd love to hear about your emotional journey. I'm sure there've been ups and downs,
Woo.
and like through the excitement, through the halcyon days,
Mhm.
uh, through cross bull and bear markets, all of these things, to where we are now today.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to get your high level takeaway.
Yeah, man, it's been an emotional roller coaster and a half. Therapy, big up therapy. Uh, I kind of one of the biggest heartbreaks like I've had in this space is kind of lighting ablaze like the community that we've built of like 70,000 people because people weren't in kind of community with the people they claim to serve. And for me, NFTs.tips was kind of like my home, something that I had a hand in like building, like I was there every day. And so like that culminated in me like cussing out a room of like 200 people. It was just I had like a light bulb moment, and I'm thankful for like a lot of people that have stood by me in that moment. But it was very emotional and very I'm gonna keep it funky. It was very traumatizing. And prior to that, people were trying to scam people and
Mhm,
taking people for their money and getting them involved in projects that were not cool. And like we all had some kind of pact that we wouldn't engage in that type of behavior, but that's what kind of turned out into the community. I'm like, this community got to be lit on fire, and like we could start anew from the ashes, or y'all can continue, but I'm out. And so it just that particular moment a few years ago, I had like a eureka moment. Is that
mhm,
I will never build community in this Web3 crypto thing again unless it's continuously in alignment with what I believe. And only in that way we bring people in to this kind of ecosystem where they have education, they're onboarded properly, and they have the necessary tools to be able to see kind of the danger zones. They're able to see kind of the obstacles. They're able to see like people who are on bad behavior. And so it was interesting. That was super even to this day, like, I still get emotional about it, but I've
mhm,
had people like K Mayfield and Black Dave and other folks that I can Cas Vegas that I can lean on, and still kind of hold me, and so I also have seen, like, so much stuff happen in this space. I've been at the cusp of like calling people out and exposing people for bad behavior, scamming and grifting. And I don't regret any moment of those, but I do think it's important to take care of yourself. And so I'm at this point where like it's about me. I need to build the things that I want to build because I've helped tens of thousands of people in crypto and Web3, and now it's time to do me. And that moment of self reflection, introspection has been invaluable. So yeah, but I've been through some real some real ish in this space. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
can only imagine. Um,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, emotional roller coaster is definitely a good way to put it. And I'm happy to hear that when
yeah.
you did, hit the edge, hit the breaking point, you took the time to reflect and, make
I
sure you're
had to.
looking for yourself. I
Yeah,
mean, that's, you have to do that. Um, and yeah, no, I know you're also involved in Kernel now, which
yeah,
I'm also really excited to see your name in there. It's one of my favorite communities in this space, and do feel like it, is part of that more aligned,
yeah, yeah.
ethos of that I think what made a lot of people excited about,
Hmm.
this technology and some of the culture that still exists in the periphery. Um, but I'd love to hear, a little bit about Pizza DAO. Maybe it's not as
Pizza
music
down.
related, but I have to ask.
We got a whole set. We got a whole pizza band. Shout out to Pizza Connection, our official band of pizza now. Um, I'm not even kidding. Yeah, Pizza Dad came around like 4 years ago, and this guy in a room about nothing on Clubhouse. Again, Clubhouse was a catalyst for a lot of culture that exists at this moment and communities as well. And so I met this guy, Snacks. We all knew each other from the NFT room. A lot of them knew us from NFTs at Tips. Snacks used to moderate the room sometimes, well, all the time at first. So, um, so we were sitting in a room, just like 20 people, talking about like we should have like tacos. We should give people free tacos, and it was just like a weird room. And all of a sudden, it was like 30 people, then 40 people, then somehow we got into like we should give people free pizza. And so it was a whole bunch of people that came together, artists, developers, people like Snacks, who are like who's one of the strongest community builders in crypto, and we just created Pizza DAO on a whim. It was a crazy idea. And so $750,000 of pizza later, and probably like thousands of like pizza parties across the globe. We're still out here, and they're
Hmm.
trying to buy a pizza place right now, so it's kind of the next evolution of like Pizza DAO
Cool.
in Philly. So that's the project that invigorates me most and that I'm most indebted to, because I lead social impact there. They're really good people, which I don't say lightly. Pizza DAO has been uh it's been a roller coaster too, but like Pizza DAO has given so much people space to like enter crypto and experience what real community means. And so Pizza DAO is who doesn't like pizza? Most people like
That's
pizza. So
it's the
even if you don't like pizza, we're crazy enough at our parties that you will actually enjoy our
best.
parties. So,
Cool.
so
Well,
yeah.
I mean, as a pizza enthusiast, and yeah, I'm curious, and for other people who might, be interested, I guess, in, being
Yeah.
part of Pizza. I mean, how does one become part, of Pizza DAO?
You could either come to the parties, they have boxes, but like not everybody has to have a box to be in the DAO. Like you could just come, be as you are, pitch in, contribute however you see fit. And that's what I love about Pizza DAO. You like to do graphic design, just jump in. You can go hang out with Infiltrate, aka Brandon, our favorite designer, and go make things. Do you like to plan events? We love people who love to plan events. We have people all over the world. Come jump in and hang out, and that's just the nature of like Pizza DAO. Get in where you fit in, and we'll make space for you. Most welcoming and loving community too. So yeah,
Oh, sweet. I love to hear that. I'm making myself a note.
yeah. Come, and if you don't want to do anything, you just want to come hang out on our community calls on Sunday. That's cool too. We welcome everybody.
Cool.
So yeah,
Amazing. Coming together around pizza. There's, a few things better, like the nonpartisan, community gathering.
yeah. Nobody's talking about nonsense, and
Yeah.
we get real goofy really quick. Like let me be honest, but that's what I love about it. So yeah.
Cool.
So yeah.
Um, all right, cool. So now I'm gonna transition us back to
Cool.
music and get into kind of part two of this conversation where I ask you a little bit more about your music listening habits and the stuff that you like to listen to.
Yeah.
And the first question I'd love to ask is, how do you discover music? And if you could contextualize that response through perhaps a few
Mm,
of your favorite curators, a few of
yeah.
your favorite outlets and or platforms that you spend time with.
I mostly spend time I'm still on SoulSeek. I will not give it up till they block me. Um, so SoulSeek's like a OG like program where you could like download music. I'm gonna keep it funky. Because they have a lot of obscure things that I like Somali like jazz music, and so I YouTube also has a lot of that stuff, so I spend a lot of time on YouTube, like way too much time, like hours and hours and hours a day. And so that's and as far as like people, I don't look for a lot of the quote unquote mainstream curators because again, like I like a lot of obscure stuff. I like a lot
Mm.
of deep rooted like hip hop, OG like grime, and so and also like my friend Lindsay with the E, she's the one person, like she knows all the things about rock. She has like these cool genres that she likes, and she's like, check out the Armed or check out this person. And or I'll be at her house for days on end and she'll just play like really cool playlists. And that's the person for me that's like as far as rock goes and like all these like genres around that, I pin on Lindsay with an E. Hip hop, K Mayfield. And there's some other folks that I know that love certain genres, and I can depend on them, but they're not any like mainstream curators at like Spotify or like all these things. And so those are what is it? Tapes from Africa or awesome tapes from Africa or something. I also love like those archives because they have a lot of old like African music that I enjoy of all types. And so yeah, yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the most important things is to find, the curators that speak, to you, which can be,
Yeah.
which can be really difficult because it's just like naturally hard to trigger an algorithm that, if your taste is so specific that only a few other people are going, you know, to be interested in finding you. I actually remember having a really long conversation with Lindsay within the at the water and music um wavelengths
Mhm.
um in New York, and we talked a lot about music, which is great. Anyways, do you still do like any of the IRC chats? Because I feel like that kind of functions as like a
Um,
good
Not
curator.
anymore because I was on their client called Merc, and so Merc was kind of before Napster even thought of being existing in this world. Merc was kind of like the place where you can go download anything on planet Earth, and but you'd have to type in the whole file name like in the beginning, and so that doesn't necessarily exist in the way that it did back then in the mid '90s, early 2000s, and so I mostly depend on like SoulSeek because I can find the similar types of libraries and things, and it
Right.
still feels kind of IRC chattish in a way. And so I spend most of my time on YouTube and SoulSeek. So yeah.
Cool. All right, my next question for you. Can you remember the first album that you ever purchased?
Oh, that's hard. Um, I like so many.
Hmm.
Like it's gonna Tower Records have like a stack full of things. I would say, wow, that is a hard question. I think the first album I probably bought, not Columbia House, not paying the penny with $899 like shipping and handling. I'd say the first album that I went to go buy was probably The Chronic,
That's
Dr.
sweet.
Dre, obviously. And so, but prior to then, yeah, people like I would just like steal my dad's stuff, and he had like thousands of like albums, and so I didn't really need to go buy anything. But The Chronic
Right.
was probably the first thing I bought for myself. So yeah.
Cool. Cool. And then what's the most recent album that you've purchased?
I mostly purchased singles. I did buy, I was looking for this rare, Janis Joplin album.
Hmm.
Sorry, my cat's like climbing up the tree. I was looking for this rare like Janis Joplin album, but they just happened to have like a single of like Little Girl Blue, and I was like, oh my god, that's my song. I gotta get this. Whether it's like legit or not, I don't care, but it sounds good on my record player, and like
Mhm.
I had to have this, 'cause I collect vinyl or records, and so
Mhm.
I had to have that. I also bought the Rock Marciano Elephant Bones vinyl too. It was like $100, but I'm willing to
Yeah.
purchase that for rock. And so, yeah, those are probably like my two recent purchases. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Okay, who are three artists of note that you've heard for the first time in the past year-ish?
Ooh, that's hard. Um, Again, Lindsay introduced me to this band called The Armed, and I love their music.
Wow.
As far as like anything else that I've listened to for the first time, I think that would be it because yeah, that would probably be it. I've listened to a bunch of stuff, but I mostly listen to certain like eh, year brackets. So yeah, but
What? Well, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it doesn't have to be new music, just new to you.
new to me, probably not. I don't know if it's new to me. I would say, hmm, yeah, The Armed is kind of the newest thing I've been listening to. I've
Mm.
like Janis Joplin, obviously rock. I've been listening to years, and there's other artists as well. So yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. Cool. We'll
That's a
just put
rough
the arm
question.
as all three.
Yeah, the arm, the arm, the arm, the arm.
The arm and the arm. Um,
I'm fine with
cool.
that.
Um, okay, here's the big question. You are going to a desert island and you get to bring
Mhm.
three records with you. What are they?
Oh, Miles Davis, Blue and Green. Just just bring the one song. I could play
Just
that
blue
like
and
repeat.
green.
Yeah, just green. Um, wow, so many albums. I would have to say, um, Dennis Brown. He has like a whole no, yeah, Dennis Brown. Though I have the ultimate connection of Dennis Brown. I would bring that CD, that record. I can listen to it 24/7. That is like the beginning of my playlist. And I'd also say, hmm, this is a hard question. Mm, yeah, I'd probably also say Rock Marciano and Alchemist, the Elephant Bones. That was impeccable album, and I also listen to that every day. So,
Sweet. That
yeah.
was pretty painless. You did that in like near record time.
I'll take it as a compliment. I'm like, I could pick like 800 albums.
Yeah, I mean that's the tough thing is people think about all 800 before they choose, but you nailed it. Well done.
Yeah.
Um, cool, Natalie. That's about all we got for folks who are listening who want to get involved in the work that you're doing. Whether it be Pizza DAO or any of the other things. What is the best place for them to follow along?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter all day, 24/7. I'm also on Telegram, but I don't like I told somebody this morning, I don't like private DMs on Telegram. Security, safety. But you can catch me on Twitter all day, 24/7. I host Twitter Spaces all the time. I'm also involved in some grant projects for like creatives, and so if you're interested in that kind of thing, or hopefully gonna bring back the Metaverse Music Festival, which was a OG kind of festival project in the space. So if you want to get involved in any of this Pizza DAO or you want to learn about Web3 and crypto, I'm happy to be your Sherpa, onboard you, and just introduce you to people. So hit me up, Twitter, everywhere.
Love
Not
that.
LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn. Cool. Web3 Sherpa. I love that.
Or the
Um,
Kevin Bacon of Web3. That's what they call me.
cool. It's actually a great segue into the last question for you,
Yeah.
because you yourself were an answer to this question. Now that you've been through the ringer of For the Record,
Mhm.
who is another music head that we should invite onto the show?
Ooh, there's so many. I think you should act the one person's knowledge that blows me away. He's not in Web3. Dart Adams, he's like an encyclopedia of all things hip hop. And if I could have a bonus, Kane Mayfield, both of them together, they know a lot of random stuff about hip hop culture. They both have like a enormous kind of insights, like different genres and what's happening in the world of music. And so Dart Adams and Kane Mayfield are the two people that blow my brain open. So I would pick those two.
Okay, sweet.
I cheated.
No, that's all right. Now I have two people to reach out to.
Yeah.
Uh,
Dart is a eighth world wonder. So,
cool. That's exciting. I love that. Cool, Natalie. Thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure to have you on the show and get to chat at long last, and really dive into music and your story. So I appreciate you being here.
thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. Take care. Thank you again. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks everyone for being here. That is a wrap on another episode of For the Record, a conversation series with all manner of music heads about their stories and the music that makes them. It's a production of Grey Matter and the new Crate Coalition experiment in building connective listening graphs. We stamp every music mention that you heard here, from the names of musicians to DJs to journalists to venue owners. And in the background, we're mapping these names to form those yet unseen connective threads between. Want to get involved? Check out our website, greymatter.fm. It's gray with an E. Or you can come hang out in the Crate Coalition Discord. We'll see you next time.